Hi, this is Mike from BandLab, and in this video, we're going to make an electro house beat in BandLab's free online DAW. You can open this project yourself with the link in the video description. And if you find this guide useful, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be the first to know when new videos drop. I begin by setting the project tempo to 130 beats per minute, and the project key to A major. First, I'm going to make a drum part, so I create a new virtual instrument track and select Drums, Drum Pads, New House Kit. I add a kick on every beat of the bar, with open hats between the beats. I duplicate this out for the rest of the 4-bar clip. To duplicate notes or clips in BandLab, hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows and drag them over. I turn this track down to -9 dB to give me some more headroom to add other elements. I want a clap on this beat, but the clap in New House Kit doesn't have quite the right feel. So I open up BandLab's Sounds, click the One Shots tab, and type clap into the text search field. 808 clap is the sort of sound I want, so I create a new sampler track and drag it out into the first pad. I turn this track down to -9 dB to balance it with the other drum track. I trigger this sound in every second and fourth beat of the bar. This doesn't sound quite tight enough for the feel I'm after, so I move the sample start marker to the clap's second transient. I'd like a touch of reverb on the sound, so I open the effects panel and add Reverb Studio Reverb. I set the mix to 3.4 and the size to 1.6. Next, I want to add a beat loop to flesh out the drum part a touch. In BandLab Sounds, I click the Packs tab and enter House into the text search field. I open the Progressive House pack and drag Electro Light Drum Groove 05 into the project. I only want to hear the shakers and hats from this loop, so I truncate the loop using the handle at the bottom right-hand corner of the clip so that it just plays the first beat. Then I use the loop handle at the top right-hand corner of the clip to drag it out to 4 bars in length. I turn this track down to -6 dB. I'd like a shaker loop to top the drum part off, so in BandLab Sounds, I click the Loops tab and search for shaker. I drag John Sturck's Shakers 01 into the project, again looping it out for the whole 4 bars. Then I turn this track down to -6 dB. Now it's time to add some music. I create a new instrument track, and this time select Basses, Synth Basses, Body Rocking Bass. I turn this track down to -11 dB. I make a new MIDI clip and use the handle at the bottom right-hand corner to stretch it out to 8 bars in length. I duplicate the drum part out so that it's the same length as the new clip. I program in a bass line that plays every 3/16 notes, resetting every 2 bars. This plays A, C, D, G, with a little touch of G sharp at the end to bring it back up to A. I add a studio reverb, setting the mix to 2.4 and the size to 6.0. This bass sound needs more weight in the low end, so I add another instrument track, setting it to basses, synth basses, bass lead. I duplicate the MIDI clip over and set the track volume to -14.5 dB. Next, I want a vocal. I clear the text search field, then set the instrument filter to voice and the genre filter to electronic. Scandi Pop Vox 02 is the sort of vibe I'm looking for, so I drag this into the project and loop it out for 8 bars. I turn this track down to -3 dB. I don't want to repeat this stabby riff for the whole track, so I decide to add some instrument parts that will allow me to have some variation in the arrangement. I add a new instrument track and set it to keyboards, synth keys, house chords. I sequence an arpeggiator-style pattern on 16th notes that play A, E, G, A for 2 bars, followed by G, D, E, G for 2 bars, before repeating. I turn this track down to -17.5 dB. I add a delay filter echo and set the delay time to 220 milliseconds. This gives the part a busier, more interesting rhythm. I also add a studio reverb. I want a sound to harmonize with this part, so I add a new instrument track and set it to basses, synth basses, classic synth bass. This plays on 16th notes, hitting A, G, D, F, and A again for a couple of beats. I set this track to -14.5 dB. I don't actually want this sound to be too bassy, so I add a tone multi-filter, which I set to high pass mode with a frequency of 250 Hz. I also add a studio reverb with a mix of 3.2 and a size of 2.2. To help create smooth transitions between sections, I add some sound effects. In BandLab's sounds, I search for riser and drag TG Main Kit 1 FX Noise Riser 4 bars 1 onto the project, placing it at measure 6. I turn this track down to -3 dB. I then search for fill and drag Dark Fill 02 onto the project, positioning it on the last of the 8 bars. I turn this track up to +3 dB. For the arrangement, I start with just the ARP. Then I add the clap and bass. Then I drop the new house kit sounds. The house loop is the final part to be added before the breakdown. In the breakdown, I have a multi-filter effect with an automated frequency parameter that opens up over the Electro stab. Before the drop, the house loop comes in, with the sound effects leading into the drop. On the drop, the beats and bass kick in, and are then joined by the shaker loop. Finally, the vocal joins the mix, with another dose of filter frequency automation in the stab. Fork this project yourself and make your own version of it using the link in the video description. Have fun!